Justin Hombach, guitarist extraordinaire. Eternity's End is one of your projects. You also did some work on the new Hannes Grossman album or EP. Dude, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine. It's just finished a lot of work, a lot of video editing and practicing today and all of this kind of stuff. And now it's time to have a pleasant conversation with you.
Well, I appreciate you joining me, man. And what are you working on right now? Do you got anything new coming out?
Well, there are a few different things that I'm working on right now. We are working on right now with Eternity's End on the next record, on the 4th upcoming record. There I have to start recording and writing my solos and recording and writing the songs in the part that I wrote. Because in the last Eternity's End record, I joined the band when the whole record was already written and the demos was produced and everything. So I just contributed with my guitar solos. Now on the next record, I'm actually going to write certain parts. I even wrote a whole song that Christian really liked, and so I have to start working on the demos and on the pre-production so that afterwards we can organize everything else and how to finance the record and everything else. But besides that, I'm going to play some live shows with the technical death metal band called Alkaloid, where I'm replacing Christian because he's not going to make it to some shows that they have in this year, and some really interesting shows where they are trying to combine technical death metal and extreme metal with music from Johann Sebastian Bach. And there I'm going to replace Christian. And this is something where I have to do a little bit of practicing, learning the Christian Münzner solos and everything. But yeah, always being on my toes. And other than that, all the social media stuff. My work is being a content creator, so my daily job is doing Instagram and YouTube and all of this kind of funny stuff.
Yeah, man, like you have an awesome YouTube channel, which everybody should subscribe to. I personally am. I actually joined your mailing list and learned some stuff from you, and it was really cool. And I actually learned what was it that I learned? I learned the Necrophagus, Only Ash Remains solo intro solo, which I think is really cool. And man, like you said, your social media stuff that's a full-time gig, and between that, learning other people's music and all that kind of stuff, you stay pretty busy. And what's your approach when you have to learn somebody else's music? How do you break that down?
Okay. Well, that fits actually to the current situation because I just released on my YouTube channel last week or so a video about how I learned songs quickly, because I had a gig last weekend and the weekend before that to play certain festivals for a befriended band of mine, and they asked me 14 days before the first show starts, like, hey dude, we need you, our guitar player got sick, you have to learn 13 songs in 14 days. So that was quite intense, but I have a certain plan and certain system. And it is basically that I first organize a lot of things and make a strategy, like really checking out, okay, what kind of songs are the most difficult one to learn in the set list? Where do I have solos that are legendary for the band or that the people know this band for? So I had to play them note for note. For example, now with Alkaloid, I have to play Alter Magnitudes. And Alter Magnitudes is a really famous song and solo from Christian. So I definitely try to play this note for note then live. And yeah, just checking out in the first place which kind of sections are really hard, which kind of sections will need more time, and what kind of sections don't need that much time. And then I start organizing my practice routine around it. And sometimes there are certain sections that I can play off the spot, like just reading and just instantly knowing, okay, where the song will lead us. Here's the verse, here's the chorus and everything. And in other situations, I have to do my whole practice routine, like starting slow, increasing the tempo, getting the muscle memory done and everything. And then when I have this is just the surface. Underneath it, I'm happy when I have a lot of rehearsals with the bands, or as much rehearsals as possible, because then it's about the music. Then it's about playing together as a band. In the last band where I jumped in, they called Words of Farewell. It's like a modern melodic death metal band. And the cool thing is that most of the guys from that band, the keyboard player and the drummer, especially, no, the keyboard player and the bassist especially, they are music teachers in high school, so they have a musical educational background, and so I could really dig deep with these guys into all the details. Like, okay, that rhythm should be really and that rhythm should be really tight, and here is this little nuance and that little nuance, and this is where all the fun then happens, because you can't hear certain nuances with guitar profiles, because that's all MIDI, and when it comes to dynamics and everything.
Do you prioritize the hardest songs first or the easier songs first?
The hardest songs, definitely the hardest songs. And as soon as I have these done, I try to learn the set list first with the first song and then with the last song, because otherwise it can happen that you start with the first song and then you do the second, the third, the fourth song, whatnot, and then you don't have much time left to learn the last 3 songs, and then you're on rehearsal like, oh fuck, I don't know how the chord progression is and how this riff goes and everything, because I didn't have the time to. I was focusing way too much on the first few songs and not on the last song, so I tried to do like learning first the first song, then the last song. As soon as I have the hardest stuff done, learning the first, the last, and then going more and more into the middle, so I have all songs from the set list equally prepared.
Absolutely. And you talked about playing with people that are, educated musicians, and I'm sure it makes it a lot easier in a situation like that to be able to communicate with people on that level.
Yes and no on a certain way, because I mean that was kind of tricky. They never had a substitute guitar player. They playing with the same guitar player for the last 15 years, so they are used to somebody who can play these songs with all this knowledge and the detail. And this is a little bit a problem with being known for social media, etc. They were always saying like, Justin, you are a shred dude, you're a shred god, you can play this easily. And I was like, no, your music is not that easy, And so they were like, in the first rehearsal, I was a little bit scared and afraid, because then I got the looks from the keyboard player like, dude, really? It does not sound so tight. And then he was stopping playing his keyboard. And he was like, okay, let us do a clapping exercise that I do with my middle grade students and everything, like to get the rhythm and the feeling tight. And that was first a little bit frightening, but in the end, after the second rehearsal, it was really cool, because the communication is much easier and the understanding of certain situations is much easier. And what I also do, which is what I want to say is, sorry, sometimes my German brain skips into my English brain and I have to try to translate it in the right way. What is also really important for me is to have as much as possible tablature, tabs, Guitar Pro, whatnot, or any kind of source that I can rely on. Because of course I could transcribe all the kind of stuff. I did a lot of transcribing lessons when I've studied jazz guitar in university, but it costs so much more time than just having the tabs organized and just knowing instantly, okay, I have to play this note and that note and this note and that note. So that's also really important for me when learning stuff from other musicians.
Absolutely, man. And some of the hired gun stuff that I've done, having any sort of notation or reference material is huge, because that way you don't have to spend your time trying to figure it out. And, and sometimes though, the notation can be wrong, and, there's no accounting for dynamics with tablature, but, but it's still super helpful. Like I auditioned for Atheist, and cool. I learned their entire set. And it didn't pan out for whatever reason. But some of those songs, like from the Elements albums, didn't have any notation. And I had like 3 months to learn that stuff. And I mean, getting the songs down with the notation, not a problem, but trying to figure that stuff out without it was a pain. So I found a transcribing service where you can pay them to transcribe the songs. And that's what I ended up doing, because I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah. I mean, when you are not used to do it, and when you don't know the tools and don't have the experience in it, it can be quite hard. I mean, I'm lucky that I had to do it when I studied jazz guitar. It was few of my lectures where where you have to do it, where you have to do exams in transcribing all this kind of stuff. So I can be quite quick with it, but it's still much more time needed than when you just have the tabs or videos of somebody who's playing it and everything else. Yeah.
Like, so that being said, like, I read that you did, you went to a jazz conservatory or school for music, and what was that like? And how, in your opinion, like, what is the difference between going to school for something like that versus being self-taught? Like, what are the pros and the cons from those perspectives?
I would say the pros are definitely, let me start with the pros. They are definitely that you are in an environment that it's not focused on guitar. Before I was going to jazz university, I was in a progressive metal band, only shredding, on stage, being center of attention, being the hero. And then playing in a big band where you only have to play certain chords or certain kicks and hits and whatnot. And the whole brass section is in the center of attention, or to know your spot, to know your place in a band, in a certain band situation and in combo. These are the experience that taught me a lot for the business later on. And as well, of course, stuff like how to arrange music, how to compose for a classical orchestra, how to compose for a big band, improvising, all this kind of stuff. Even if I don't play that much jazz anymore, would love to play some little bit more jazz, because back in that day, it was from 2012 to 2017, I was total jazz snob. I was not playing any heavy metal, not having any distortion, not having a metal guitar. I only had big guitars, and was just playing bebop and Charlie Parker and all these kind of music and guys. And I loved it. I totally loved it. And after I did my degree, I said, no, I want to be a metal guitarist. And now I did enough jazz. I don't want to do it anymore. Now I want to be a metal guitar player again, because there's where my hearts belong. But back to the time in university, I think these kind of experience, playing together with other musicians, learning from other musicians, not being in this kind of just guitar environment, just getting peeks and looks out of how the world of music can be when guitar is not the center of attention. This helped me a lot to get a bigger perception on music. Yeah. The cons, I would say, the only con that I could say is, do you really need it to have a career? No. After I have done my degree, nobody fucking cared about it. I mean, one thing, I used to teach in high school as well, music for 4 years, from 2018 to 2021. Or 2017 to 2021, sorry. I was a high school teacher for music. And there, of course, they asked me, do you have any certification that you are good enough to teach in a high school environment? But when it comes to the music business, to bands, etc., nobody cared. I once was in a big audition in 2016 for one of the now biggest, I would say, symphonic metal bands in Germany. They are playing like Wacken headliner and all this kind of stuff. But I think they're mostly known for being a big band in Germany. Beyond the Black is the name of the band. And I was at the audition there for guitar playing, being the next lead guitar player. And there I realized, nobody cares right now if I have a degree in jazz, guitar, and everything, because other attributes are more important when it comes to music business and to playing in a band and everything and all this kind of stuff. So you don't necessarily need it, but it was one of the best times of my life. I have so many friends that comes out of this time, and so many great experience jamming all night long to Donna Lee and trying to figure out how to play giant steps. It was such an incredible journey, but yeah, you don't necessarily need it to have a career in music. No.
That's really interesting. I have a friend who went to conservatory for violin in, I think, Belgium or Holland. I can't remember. And he was saying that, like, you learn in those environments, and for him anyway, that you learn to mimic other people. Like, that's what they care about, is being able to play somebody else's music proficiently and perfectly. And and he even went on to explain that, like with classical music, we actually don't know how it sounds, because the people that wrote it, nobody knew how they played it. It's all somebody else. It's all somebody else's interpretation of it. And he also said that it's kind of interesting because when you go, like, in that context anyway, I don't know if it's the same for guitar, but or whatever, but he said it kind of kills your creativity because you learn to think in a mechanical way, you learn to think in a structured way. So some of the things that we find interesting in certain people's intrinsic, musical qualities, they kind of like don't embrace those things where it's very just, this is how it goes and play what somebody else's interpretation of somebody else's music is.
Interesting point. Really interesting point. It's not when you are studying jazz music. I think in the United States a little bit different, but in Europe it's really splitted. You have either classical education or you have jazz education, and these two schools are two completely different schools. When I remember correctly, in the United States you have like performance that you can study, and there you also have a lot of classical training depending on the instrument, but in my school we didn't do a lot of classical stuff at all, and we didn't have classical instruments as well, so we are really focusing on the jazz stuff, and there it's more about freedom, creativity, trying to express yourself, find ways to express yourself. But that's really interesting what you said, because it is basically my work nowadays that I try to mimic as good as possible other guitar players. And so far, I didn't have the experience that it would kill creativity. I see it more from the point of view that you gather more and more experience, more and more information, and then your creativity is the product of, or I would say like the melting pot out of so different guitar players that inspired you, that you try to mimic. The same with Christian. Christian always says, so Christian Münster, my bandmate, he always says like the way how he composes music is that he tries to imagine, okay, how would Vinnie Moore and Marty Friedman in one solo sound like, and then he's trying to, and I do this as well, trying to figure out, okay, what are the key elements of these guitar players, the key phrasing stuff and the key signature sound and everything, and then trying to combine that and then creating something new out of it. So I would say the perception and the point of view on being creative shifted a little bit into a different kind of not so romantic perspective, because sometimes people can be romanticizing being creative a little bit too much, but yeah, it well can be that when you are in these classical universities in Europe, then it's really, and it is definitely like this, because I know some violin and cello players and everything, they don't learn music theory that much. They don't learn how scale works, for example, or the sound of arpeggios. The only thing they mostly learn is how they are mechanically able to play certain things, because classical music is a lot about that. It is the tradition. In classical music, you always have the composer who knows how to write stuff, who knows all this kind of stuff, and you can study composing as well in Europe. And then you have the players who play the stuff that the composer tell them to play. So their job is more being able mechanically to play all this kind of stuff. In jazz music, it is definitely more fluent. You don't have this one guy is writing, the other guy is playing. It is like the players also write and the writers also play,
Yeah, and I think maybe a big difference is jazz celebrates improvisation. Classical music, they want nothing to do with it.
No, which is sad because a lot of classical composers like Chopin or even Beethoven and Bach, they were all improvisers, But yeah, they don't want to have to do a lot of things with improvisation and scales and modes and all this kind of stuff, which is really sad.
It is, and there's that famous story of Mozart playing Salieri's piano piece or something like that, and he played it with some improvisation and made it super cool. A dude got mad or whatever, but anyway, so you talked about influences as guitar players, like we all do. We take other people's stuff and kind of or what they sound like, because when I was learning to play guitar, I didn't have it in me to learn everybody's stuff note for note. I just wanted to make my own stuff sound like that. So for me, it was kind of the process of taking a little this, taking a little that, and turning it into your own thing. So that being said, dude, who are your favorite guitar players? I'm sure that's a hard question to answer, but who are on your Mount Olympus of guitar players?
I would say the number spot will always be John Petrucci, because without the music of Dream Theater, I wouldn't sit here and wouldn't talk with you, because I would never become a musician when I wouldn't have heard the Octavarium in 2005, which totally changed my whole world. But he's not so much musically anymore a big influence for me. There are a lot more influences, and more influences are coming to me. It's more like phases, you know. Sometimes you have like your jazz phase, sometimes you have like the typical Guthrie Govan phase, where you sacrifice everything to Guthrie, which I had in the early 2010s, you know. And I mean, it always shifted. But I started playing guitar because I desperately wanted to be like Kirk Hammett. I remember when I was like 11, 12 years old, I said things like, "Oh man, I would pay every money in the world if I could play like Kirk Hammett." Nowadays, I say, no, I wouldn't take any money in the world if then I would play like Kirk Hammett. So these kind of things, they are shifting. And now, right now, I would say it's a lot of the young next generation that really inspires me, especially these Instagram great guitar players like Baxty is definitely one of my favorite. He's such a cool dude. And the stuff that he releases like on a daily basis, incredible. Who else? Like Stephen Toronto. Okay, he's not so young. He's 2 years older than me, but Stephen Toronto, of course, huge influence for me. From the tech death kind of scene, Rafael Trujillo, good friend of mine, huge influence for me. All these, so many people in the world of social media that daily influences my playing. Anton Oparin is also a really great guy, even though we have certain different opinions on certain things, and there will be a really cool talk with him on my YouTube channel pretty soon, but he's an incredible player. And yeah, these kind of young kids, they inspire me, because there I see these kids, they did a lot of things right when it comes to guitar education, and they did things right what I did wrong in my teens or in my early 20s and whatnot. And so I always sat down looking at videos from young guitar players. There's one guy, I don't know the name right now, Hild, Hilde, something like that, really young kid, and he's playing some really incredible stuff. And after seeing those videos, I get more motivated to sit down and to say, okay, now I really have to practice on, again, should practice on my picking and on my left hand. And these kids are the proof of certain concepts that I believe in. And so this kind of really inspires me and motivates me a lot to become a better guitar player.
Absolutely. There's a lot of people on social media that are awesome guitar players. Like you're saying, the younger people, you know, they have awesome technique. And, you know, and I don't know for you, but I mean, I remember learning before, like, the internet was a thing like it is now, like where you had to like go to a music store and see somebody do something and like beg them to show you how, and most of the time they wouldn't, like, you know, they'd be like, whatever, kid, figure it out on your own. And I'm not taking anything away from today's musicians at all. I mean, those resources are there. You're providing those resources. I do it too. So it's really, really cool to see that, you know, like the principles, these concepts, like you're saying, that they work, you know, that's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I envy a little bit also everybody who, I was born in the 70s or born in the 80s and has lived this kind of guitar learning while just transcribing. You know, I know some really great guitar players who created their individual style because they only had such a limited amount of resources to figure out how to do all this kind of stuff. You know, they were listening to Yngwie over and over and over again, trying to figure out what the fuck is he doing. And with that kind of method, trying to figure out what the fuck he's doing, creating their own kind of style. This is something that I envy a little bit as well, because I mean, I am the pre-YouTube and YouTube generation. When I started to play guitar, YouTube did not exist yet. It took a few years, but it was super easy for me through Amazon, for example, to get all the Dream Theater CDs and to get Cacophony CDs. Was super easy for me to get them in the 2000s. And then as soon as YouTube appeared, everything changed, of course, a lot. But yeah, sometimes I envy those people who had the time to focus on one thing and then only that one thing. I mean, they all had time because they had nothing else to do in the 80s. You know, you don't had the internet connection where you could watch videos all day long, or movies, or play with your friends in online games. And nowadays we have so many distractions from guitar. That makes guitar learning also really hard, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. But like the access to the information's there. Like I
Yes.
remember,
Yeah.
remember buying like Paul Gilbert's Terrifying Guitar Trip VHS for like $60 and like that
Yeah.
Ingwe video. And I couldn't learn anything out of those for like 2 years when I first started playing guitar because it was just crazy. But now it's like, it seems like you can, like watch somebody do something and rewind that and over and over again. And that's awesome that they're utilizing those tools. And like you said, though, on the other hand, with video games, it's like, people spend more time on a computer or playing video games than they do like going to shows. Because I remember like the world, video games have been around forever, but it wasn't like people are like living in like, there wasn't like MMOs, like playing like Elder Scrolls or like stuff like that. So music was a much bigger part of our lives too. So there's definitely some contrast to it all for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So Eternity's End, isn't that a Joey Tafola album or a song?
Yeah, a song. It's the song, I believe. I don't know if the record is also named Eternity's End, but I don't think so. But Christian named it after the song of Joey Tafola, definitely. Yeah. And he once even I believe he once even wrote it to Joey, and Joey took off his head for it, and
Christian stopped by for a podcast and he told me that, and I thought that was super cool. So and he was saying like, go back and listen to your influences.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and there's so many things like about all these different like shrapnel era guys. There's like something to learn from all of them. And who was your favorite shredder?
Okay, jumping in now with a really difficult question. Who is my favorite shredder? If I had to choose only one, maybe I would take the OG Yngwie. Because the vibrato, the vibe of Yngwie in his prime time, how easy you could play runs that are extremely fast, extremely difficult. I named my cat after him. So I could now say, Yngwie. I bet he's coming soon, Yngwie, Yngwie is the man. He's just the king, I believe my choice would be the OG Yngwie. Yeah.
So like I remember I was like living on a couch somewhere as a kid trying to make it playing guitar, and the other dude in the band that played guitar, I was sleeping on his couch and I woke up like one afternoon and I heard it Yngwie for the first time. I was probably like 17, 18 years old. And it was that video. I don't remember where it was. Was it in Moscow or whatever? But he was going crazy. And it was before the car accident. So his hand was like super limber. And I think he lost a little something after that, in my opinion. How do you feel, bro?
Definitely there's a change in, I don't know, when was the car accident? 88, 89, something like that's a late 80s. I like the 90s stuff as well. I didn't like it when I got it the first time when I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, I was listening to Yngwie the first time. The first time I saw Yngwie was the video of Blitzkrieg. And after that, I started to collect CDs from him and got some compilations and whatnot, and listened to the first record. And then I got to the 90s kind of stuff, and there I realized, he's repeating himself a little bit. I heard that riff somewhere before, and I heard that chord progression somewhere before. And then I started to lose a little bit of interest when I was like 16 years old, and then Dream Theater appeared in my life, and everything was then shifted from my focus totally to Dream Theater, and Yngwie was boring and lame for me. But in my 20s, I renewed this kind of love and this fascination for Yngwie, because the older stuff, his prime time, is just legendary. And then I was listening back again to some 90s stuff, to a magnum opus, to that one cover record where he only did covers, to Seventh Sign, all this kind of songs. All these kind of records, there are so many cool songs and so many cool solos on it. But we all know the story of Yngwie, that he is a bit of a character, definitely. And then in the 2000s, he made everything else again, but with programmed drums, and didn't had somebody who do all the mastering and the mixing, and did all by himself. And only respect for Yngwie, but yeah, everybody knows how it went a little bit downhill after the 90s, you know.
Yeah, and like that cover album, Inspiration was rad. That was probably my favorite thing he did out of that whole era. I mean, like what was my favorite Yngwie albums, like Trilogy is my favorite one. That one and probably like Trilogy, Marching Out, Odyssey, and Rising Force or whatever, like the classics. Yeah. But man, it's really, really good. But yeah, his 90s stuff was just kind of like, it seemed like he like quit caring and, just wasn't really interested anymore. But you know what, dude made a super resurgence, and he's one of my favorite too. And like, if I could make the ultimate guitar player, it'd be like Yngwie, Paul Gilbert, and Greg Howe are probably like my favorite three guitar players.
Okay, interesting choice. Yeah, cool. Not too bad choice. Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, man. So, do you have any other plans besides Eternity's End?
Well, I actually started writing on a solo record like a few months ago, or like a long time ago. This is something where I definitely have to kick my ass a little bit more to release some own music, because I wrote a lot of songs, but now it's time to get them produced, and now it's time to find the people who play the stuff and sing over it and everything else. But I don't force myself to do that too much. The next projects are actually more educational projects, so that I'm already checking out, okay, what could be my next online masterclass. I'm researching right now a lot for left-hand legato masterclass because my big online masterclass is called the Zen of Speed Picking, where it's all about speed picking, and it's a masterclass with 10 etudes, workouts for the 50 licks, and I put so much heart and love in this masterclass. And every time when I have a new idea, a new concept that could work for picking, I instantly make a video and put it in the masterclass. So there's always coming new stuff into it. But now it's time to close that chapter a little bit and to switch my focus to that hand here and to check out, okay, what can I learn for my left hand? Where are the possibilities to improve, and what can I teach with the left hand? So it's more based on educational kind of stuff on what I'm working on right now. And I'm working with Christian, to be honest, on a masterclass, which is still secret. I cannot talk too much about it, but it's something that's a lot of people are going to surprise, a lot of people are going to like.
Okay, now let me ask you a question about that. I think I know what it is. You don't have to confirm, but does it have to do with the previous band? Because I'm starting to see like some videos of him playing some familiar stuff, and I was wondering if that was going to happen because the like 25th anniversary of Epitaph is 20th. Excuse me. Epitaph is right around the corner. So I kind of was like, connected some dots. I could be wrong, but you don't either have to confirm nor deny. But am I somewhere in the same library?
Yeah, what I can confirm is that no, there won't be a Necrophagist reunion, what some people think under these videos. This is not happening. Christian don't have contact to Mohammed since over 10 years or whatnot, and nobody knows where he is right now. But yeah, you are not too wrong.
Hey man, I'm paying attention. Like I said, I'm a fan of your guys' work, and you guys are all awesome guitar players, and it's inspiring. I mean, I learn stuff from you all the time, and Christian as well. And as guitar players, I mean, we all imitate each other or our influences to a certain degree. So it's always done with taste, hopefully.
That was, to be honest, a really difficult challenge for me in the first Eternity's End record where I was a part of. Also, the last Eternity's End record, Embers of War, because I started to write my solos without not knowing what Christian solos will sound like, because we wrote them simultaneously. And after I have heard Christian's solo, I had to change a lot of stuff from my solos because I realized, oh shit, I shouldn't play this lick because this is clearly a Christian Münzner influenced lick, because I'm as well a huge Christian Münzner fan and was a fanboy in my post-teens and the 20s and everything. So yeah, I realized, oh shit, I should shift my focus when it comes to inspiration a little bit away from Christian, because we just played the same lick in one solo section, But
it works and it sounds cool. That's why you're doing it, right? It's because it's awesome.
And these kind of, sorry to interrupt, and these kind of little challenges and little, getting out of the comfort zone, this is where also a lot of creativity comes from, because then you have to have to think differently. Then you have to go in a different route, in a different way. And for example, in Arcturus Prime, which was one of our first singles, I just said, okay, I had to do something else. This song is so full with shredding. We have 5 instrumental sections. We have 4 solos. It's like a 1 minute vocals in the beginning, 1 minute vocals in the end, and then, I don't know, 7 minutes just shredding. And there I just said, okay, fuck it. I'm going to do a blues solo. It's like, no, I don't want to shred too much here because everything else is so full with shredding. I'm just going to play, the typical blues phrases, and the chord progression, they allowed me to play it a little bit with a different kind of vibe than Christian would do it. And with these kind of situations where you have to get out of your comfort zone, helps a lot to find new ways and find new creativity.
Absolutely, man. And like, maybe that's something like you talk about chord progressions, and as like, as writing solos and melodies, it gets boring playing over the same stuff all the time. So is it handy to have that jazz background where some interesting sounding chord progressions where it allows you to use different arpeggios, different scale shapes and stuff like that? Is that something in a context where that's helpful?
Definitely. I would say it a little bit the other way around in the 20th, because we are a power metal band, so a lot of chord progressions is well known and we don't reinvent the wheel. But my approach on these chord progressions are a little bit different, because, for example, Christian has really made more that scale background, and he thinks a lot in scales, where I tend to think a little bit more into individual chords and how I can change certain things in individual chords. For example, back to the Arcturus Prime, I believe the chord progression was, I don't know if it's the right chord names, but or the right notes, but it's something like C, or let me do it in the different keys so it's easier to understand. It's something like A, F, G, A, like classical Iron Maiden-ish kind of chord progression.
You're way ahead, man.
Yeah. And then you can play A minor over it all the way, But I said, okay, I only have power chords here, so I'm not limited on my note choices. So I have the freedom, for example, to say, okay, over the A chord, I don't play minor, I play A major. And then I go to F major and G major and switch back to A minor in this kind of movement. But yeah, just the knowledge about intervals, how certain intervals have a certain effect on the chords that you have and the sound that you have. This kind of knowledge I definitely gained through my jazz education, and this helped me a lot in those situations to spice up a little bit the chord progressions. And just to have the awareness, okay, here now the flat 5 could be interesting, here now the minor second could be interesting, or here now this interval is not working because it sounds a little bit dull or whatnot. So just to have that knowledge and this theoretical awareness helps me a lot as well in songwriting and in solo writing. It's a good tool because before I wrote it, I know certain things sound in a certain way, have a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of tension, and you can make use of that knowledge. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think those are some of the things that separate memorable stuff from stuff that just kind of like, you can appreciate it from a technical aspect, but if it doesn't sound interesting, to me, in my opinion, it just, there's other things you could do. And like you said, just because of using power chords, there's no, it's not just a minor thing you can use or a major thing. You can pretty much essentially use what you want. So like knowing the intervals is huge and then very important. But I had another question. So I see that John Petrucci guitar behind you, that purple, that thing, man, that thing is killer. Where did you get that? That's the first time I've ever seen that paint scheme.
It's a fake. It's not an original. Right on. It's actually not mine as well. I'm going to get it pretty soon from the guy who actually owned it. But the owner, who's a good friend of mine, and he's also German guitar YouTuber, one of the most famous guitar YouTuber here in Germany. Bernd Kilz is his name, and he's a good friend of mine. And it is an original RG body. It's an original RG neck, and the pickups, they are original, but the painting was done by some dude in Indonesia who is doing these paintings.
Man,
It's not because this guitar, especially this Gen Petrucci model, was never produced for the masses. It was only done for Petrucci for his videos of Another Day. Another Day was the video where he played this guitar, and then certain live shows and whatnot. But it was never produced as a serious guitar. Yeah.
Nice. It's awesome looking, man. And I got to ask, has Christian tried to get you to join the dark side of the force and come over to the Siggy company?
No, it's a little bit the other way around, actually. I was in contact with Ziggy before I was an Ibanez endorser, and I had a Ziggy Brown guitar before I was an Ibanez endorser. Well, or he sent me one. So I have a lot of contact with Ziggy, and we are good friends. He was once a guest in my podcast as well. And every time when I see him on like Guitar Summit in Germany, which is kind of the German NAMM, then we have a long chat, and so we are cool, Ziggy and I. But and I really like his guitar. His guitar are really phenomenal. And the guitar from Christian is also really, really crazy. It is a little bit of different kind of things where I stand with Ibanez. And the things is more like, I mean, Ziggy is like a one-man brand, you know? Okay, he has certain people who helps him, but it's mostly Ziggy. And he's, of course, limited in how he can, I would say, support certain artists in a certain way. And I am so much in luck, and I'm so thankful about the distributor here in Germany of Ibanez, which is Meinl, the company who actually is doing all the cymbals for drums. And Ibanez Germany, it is like a family. And I'm a really good friend with the chef of Ibanez Germany, I don't know, it's the CEO, I don't know if this is the right term, but the biggest guy of Ibanez Germany. He's a really good friend of mine, and everybody else as well. And it's like a big family, and I love it when they have, in the early of the year, they always have like a meeting where they're inviting like artists and the press and dealers and everything for a huge event, a huge evening, and it's like a family reunion. I love to see these kind of guys, and the support that I get from them is, no other company sadly can compete with that, especially here in Germany, because there is no other company like that. And I think the history behind Ibanez is also extremely interesting. And I saw a little bit of it when I was in LA, where we met in NAMM this year, which was my first time in LA. And there we visited the LA Custom shop, which was quite cool, and I learned a lot about the history and the tradition of Ibanez guitars, and it just has something to it, you know, this Japanese kind of family business and family tradition, and it has something appealing. But other than that, the Ziggy Brown guitars are top notch. I mean, again, I played the one from Christian, I played the one from what's his name again? He's also a Ziggy Brown artist from America. Jedi Guitar Guy is his Instagram name. He's such a cool dude, and I totally forgot his name right now, which is a shame. I have to look that up because it's a shame, because he's such a cool dude, and I played his guitar on.
Is it Connor?
Yeah, Connor.
Yeah.
Connor is such a
awesome
dude.
Yeah, he's a good dude and a great guitar player as well.
Awesome guitar player. Yeah. He knows his sweeps arpeggios, definitely. And I played his guitar, and I mean, they're top notch. Ziggy is an awesome luthier, and everybody who owns the Ziggy has no right to complain.
Yeah, I'm happy with mine, man. They hooked me up with one, and it's been nothing but great. Like the first time I played it was in Romania, and it came with the backline stuff, dude, and it like held up really good, and it plays great. So I'm super stoked with it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I can totally understand. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So, Justin, before we wrap things up, is there anything you'd like to mention before we go?
I mean, not necessarily, but the only thing I want to say is practice your guitar, my friend, because practicing is a lot of fun. It's the viewer, not you, Matt. Everybody should practice guitar, because practicing guitar is so much fun. And embrace the challenge, embrace the things that you can't do. It is such a lovely journey, and I love it totally. And even though there's still so much work to do, I absolutely love it. And this is thing that I just wanted to say.
Awesome, man. And you're absolutely right. I need to practice. We all do. And that's what I'm going to do later on today. But Justin, thank you so much, man. I'm a huge fan of your work. Thank you for stopping by. And I hope you have an awesome rest of your week, dude. And I hope to see you soon and keep kicking ass, dude.
Yeah. And thank you for inviting me to this really cool podcast. And everybody who's now watching it and did not subscribe to Matt, you know what you have to do right now. Subscribe to his channel. Yeah.
Thank you, dude. I'll talk to you later, man.
And see you soon. Bye-bye.